Welcome to r/entitled parents, where an entitled mother attacks a naked stripper. When I was a baby, my parents rescued a dog from this animal shelter and named him Buddy. Buddy was half German Shepherd, half Golden Retriever. We called him our Golden Shepherd, and he was the perfect family dog. As the years passed, our family grew fairly larger. My parents' religion encouraged lots of children, and Buddy saw each of us and our pet rabbits like his own puppies. He would let us snuggle with him and use him as a pillow, and I think he thought he was a human since he would only walk on the sidewalk, only lay on blankets from our beds, and chasing a ball or stick was absolutely beneath him. What a quirky boy. This story takes place when I was 12 years old, so by our best guess, Buddy was at least 13. He was old, and all the kids in our family knew to give him space and treat him nicely, just like you would an old man. We had some neighbors who didn't like us very much. They only had one 3-year-old daughter and one indoor cat, so our lots of kids, mostly boys, and indoor/outdoor dog were a bit too loud and dirty for them. They avoided us as much as possible, but occasionally their daughter would be outside playing at the same time we were, and we would invite her to play with us. On one day like this, my sister had Buddy on a leash in the front yard, drawing with sidewalk chalk with her friend. Buddy was just laying in the sunshine next to them. The little girl came out and asked if she could draw with chalk too, and of course my sister let her and didn't think anything bad could happen. The girl, being 3, draws for a bit, then runs off, comes back to draw some more, then runs off again, and my sister doesn't worry about her because she's just being a toddler. After a bit, this little girl tried to climb on Buddy's back like a horse. My sister stopped her and explained that Buddy's an old man and that hurts his back. The little girl nods and runs off. After a little while of everything going fine, with the little girl running up to color and then running away, she tries to climb on his back again. My sister again corrected her, explaining that that hurts Buddy and we don't want to hurt him, so please don't climb on his back. The little girl says, "Okay," and runs off. This time, my sister moved to a different spot a little ways away from where the girl was playing, and after a while, stopped paying attention to where she was. This time, the girl came back and climbed on Buddy's back a 3rd time. Just as my sister noticed her and started to say something, Buddy growled. The growl startled the little girl and she lost her balance, fell off, and hit her face on the sidewalk. When my sister took her to her house to get her parents, they were convinced Buddy bit her. They wouldn't listen to my sister's story and insisted the scrape on the daughter's cheek was a dog bite, even though it was clearly a wide sidewalk scrape, not teeth marks. Buddy had no history of biting, even though he was always surrounded by kids, and my sister was there when it happened and saw the whole thing. I even rushed outside to see what all the yelling was about, saw the scrape and saw Buddy just sitting there with his head down like he thought he was in trouble. Poor old dog wouldn't hurt a fly. In a dramatic to-do, they rushed their daughter to the hospital and got her cheek bandaged up. Remember, it was just a scrape, but okay. And sought out a military police officer with experience working with attack dogs who told them that once a German Shepherd tastes blood, they'll never stop trying to kill that person. They came to us that night and demanded we put our dog down because he'll try to kill their daughter. My dad was very reasonable and understood their fear, so he said he would talk to the family and get back to them. When he told us they wanted to kill our dog, we all started crying and hugging Buddy and begging Dad not to do it. My dad was a big softy, but could be fiercely protective of his family. If anyone made us cry, it was all over. The next day, he told the neighbors he believed my sister that the dog didn't bite their daughter, and he was just old and trying to protect himself from being hurt by her again. They didn't take this well, and from then on, they would call their daughter inside whenever they saw us, with or without the dog, and tried spreading gossip about us with the other neighbors. Everyone else liked us though, so that didn't go anywhere. Long story short, the mean neighbors moved and Buddy lived to the ripe old age of at least 17. He died after a long battle with cancer on my 16th birthday. I went with my dad to put him down and put an end to his suffering. I didn't want him to feel abandoned on the last day of his life when he had always been such a good dog. So, did anyone else notice that these parents let their 3-year-old toddler daughter play outside without any supervision? Those people honestly sound like garbage to your parents. Our next Reddit post is from the real Slim Grady. An entitled mother breaks my friend's window while she's playing with herself, and a lot happens, lol. My college friend Emily called me recently to tell me something that happened like 15 minutes ago. Emily was alone in her apartment where she was on the ground level and had the window shades closed, but the window cracked open as she told me that her central air is often broken and it gets stuffy. Important info. She was doing as this post is titled, having alone time, and was nude doing it, and she said she was being very quiet. When she hears the sound of her window squeak and this young boy's face pops in through the blinds and she screams. Emily's on the other side of the room and this kid pulls out a phone and takes a picture while she's recoiled and runs off. She told me initially she was shocked and pissed, but she's used to it as she works as an exotic dancer and has a plethora of other inappropriate conduct stories, and just decides to stay out of it and not get messed up in whatever terrible adult parents that child. She told me after she started again, she heard a scream of a woman outside. No, that's illegal! And what do you know, a few seconds later and rapid banging on the door starts and Emily just grabs a blanket to cover herself and goes into her bathroom. Her apartment is very, very small and essentially one room, so when what happens next happened, there wasn't much room for her to use. After prolonged banging on the door, the woman moves to the window and starts banging on that and yelling, "You cannot be indecent in front of children. This is illegal and I will have you arrested, pedophile." And things of that nature, when lo and behold, glass isn't that strong, and after a few colorful phrases, the woman's hand passes straight through the pane and shatters it. She stops for a second and then pokes her head in first, saying, "This is not breaking property as you are the aggressor," and then she continues. Emily is very freaked out at this point and calls the cop while the woman is yelling. She told me the cops had to ask several times to repeat as the entitled mother was screaming things about abuse and how her poor baby boy will need therapy after what she showed him. She said a couple of officers would be over and she hung up. The entitled mother will not shut up and pulls out her phone and starts recording, telling her phone the story she created and informing the imaginary audience about this pervert and how she's going to get Emily on a blacklist and calling her a molester. Now, Emily is a real strong lady in my opinion. She's had to deal with a lot of entitled people, and I have many stories starring humanity's most choice people, mostly nasty men. So she can be very calm and collected in these scenarios. She said she calmly walked over and tried to close the window and push the mother's head out. Her window is one of those ones with an upper and lower part, and she brought the upper one all the way down, which leaves maybe 6 to 7 inches of space at the bottom. The mother screams, "Assault!" and tries to grab Emily, but only grabs the blanket she used to cover up and rips it off her. Entitled mother sliced her arm on the broken window, and she ended up taking the curtains down with her so the window is unobstructed. And now Emily finds that some neighbors have gathered. Emily hops deeper into the apartment into her kitchen and calls me, telling me this. All the while, I hear in the background the familiar sound of a horribly loud and obnoxious mother. I worked a few retail jobs and I've dealt with the worst of the worst, particularly pet owners. After a few minutes of monologue, there were distant sirens and she hung up, telling me she'd call back. She said she was nervous of what might happen, but ended it saying that the worst part of this was that that woman and her child couldn't give her 5 minutes to finish what she started. I haven't heard much back yet, lol, but she did text me about 10 minutes ago. I can't talk much. Looking good. Officer restrained the mom. I'm in the clear? Update. So I called Emily and I got some updates. 2 cars arrived at her house with 3 officers. One was checking the window, another was tending to the kid, while the kid is crying at this poor cop's feet, as the cop and another talked to the mother, who apparently was yelling for a while but had calmed down a lot by now. Emily came out of her apartment after dressing herself, and one of the cops talking to the mom steps aside to get Emily's story, keeping the parties apart as to keep from affecting story retellings. She tells him what happened and asked about easy ways to deal with this without too much action. All she wanted was repair money and to be rid of the situation. The cop by the window interviews the people who are watching separately from each other, and the mother gets interviewed. Emily said she overheard her say, "That slut," a couple times, but she had apparently calmed down a lot. After a while, the cops had asked Emily if she wanted to press charges as they had the witnesses, including one guy who caught the tail end of this fun fight on video. And apparently at first the mother tried to lie her way out, saying that Emily grabbed her son through the window and made him touch her. And she broke the window in defense. But entitled mother changed her story quickly to something slightly more rational about her getting upset at public indecency when she calmed down. Maybe getting nervous about lying in front of a cop? At this point, entitled mother was holding her sweet baby boy, caressing his head and saying sweet things. Emily only had two demands, which were one, that the photos taken were to be gone, and two, that the woman pay for her damages. Entitled mother got very upset and teary-eyed and stammered about how she couldn't afford it, but after she agreed to the organization of a small claims tort settlement meeting, which I believe is the phraseology she used, and Emily wants to aim for it within a month. The mother had seriously chilled out from where she was and was now crying intermittently, really for no reason. My girl here was giving her a huge outs. The cops took some notes and promised Emily that the photo would be wiped and that the video taken would be wiped and that they would handle it all. One officer even said that she had a lot more potential here in a case for a lawsuit and could get her a few charges off the top of his head, but she expressed her deep interest in keeping this on the DL and handling it in a way that she wouldn't have to think about it again. The officer said what a lot of you guys have told me with advice, and Emily said that it seems like a good idea. At this point, she filed an official report with enough evidence showing there was no way Emily could have been at fault, and the entitled mother would be responsible. The video started around the time Emily pushed her head out, and it clearly showed the window was already broken inward, and many witnesses saying the mother broke the window. So Emily won't be responsible for injury on her own property. Emily said that she really didn't like the idea of someone having images of her when she wasn't ready or prepared, as most people would be. She lives in a small town, so people tend to be kind, and one of the officers even offered to board up my friend's window for her temporarily, which she very politely declined, as she likes doing everything herself and is a handy woman. But the gentleman gave her contact info for an inexpensive repairman, which she appreciated. The officers gave her some info and helped exchange info with entitled mother, and Emily just turned around to go back inside. Before she left, the mother stopped crying and she heard her say to the officer that she would pay the cost of a window and not a penny more. I did nothing else wrong. Followed by an audible sigh from the officer. She has no idea how easy she got off, having messed with someone who has way better things to do on her mind. I guess the moral of the story is don't interrupt a lady when she's doing very important business. Emily signed off by saying, "I'm not even in the effing mood to finish. This was all such a mess. I'm so overstimulated." I lost it at the image of this woman breaking the window, being paused like, "Oh, I broke the window." And her first response is to stick her head through the window so she can yell more. What a nut job. Our next Reddit post is from Dad is Alex. For clarification and understanding purposes, I have a medical condition in which my blood circulation is extremely weak. My average resting pulse is at around 45 beats per minute. When I sleep, it can go down to 30 beats per minute, endangering my life. When I'm physically active, not resting, etc., my pulse rises to around 60 beats per minute. A pulse of 70 beats per minute for me is like 130 beats per minute for someone with a normal or healthy blood circulation, so I pass out extremely easy. Therefore, I need to be super careful about my movements, actions, and stuff, or else I'll get knocked unconscious in seconds of just standing up. I never thought I'd encounter an entitled parent myself, but unfortunately, I did yesterday. It was around 8:30 in the morning. I was riding the bus to university. So I sit there on the bus listening to music, minding my own business, when all of a sudden someone taps me on my arm. "Excuse me, young man, could you please get up? This is my son's favorite spot on the bus," the entitled mother said. I replied, "What? I'm sorry, but I need this place. Come on, there's plenty of room for you to stand. Just get up and give us a spot." "I really can't. I'm sorry. If I get up now, I'll..." "Ugh, just get up. You seem fine, nothing wrong with you. You're just lazy and don't want to stand." While I'm trying to explain to Entitled Mother that I have a certain condition in which I need to be careful about my movements because my pulse and circulation is so extremely weak and fragile, she keeps on screaming about how I was stealing her son's happiness and how lazy I am for not standing up for a mother and her child. I was feeling my pulse rising because of the argument and stress this lady was causing me, and I got extremely anxious. I didn't want to pass out on public transport. Her son looked really uncomfortable through this whole argument and at one point tried to tell Entitled Mother to just leave me alone. The rest of the bus, of course, caught attention to the situation. All of a sudden, Entitled Mother grabbed my hand and tried to take my pulse. "Your pulse seems fine. What's wrong with you? Why can't you stand up?" Her grip was so firm, it left marks of her nails on my skin. She pulled me out of the seat, leaving me standing on the bus with an already way too high pulse for me in my condition. I tried to walk a few steps to find something to hold on to so I wouldn't fall, but it was already too late anyway, and I fell to the ground, going unconscious in the middle of a bus. What happened after that, I don't quite know. I gained consciousness laying wrapped up in a blanket on the pavement, surrounded by paramedics, the police, and the bus driver. They explained to me what happened while I was gone. The police took statements from Entitled Mother, some other people on the bus, and the bus driver, and took Entitled Mother in custody. They asked me if I wanted to give a statement now or later when I recovered, and if I wanted to press charges for the assault. And, of course, I absolutely did. All I heard from her after I woke up was just screaming in disbelief and crying. So far, it's sure that Entitled Mother's health insurance company will have to pay for the ambulance, paramedics, and other following medical bills. All public transportation for this specific line was forced to stop for 3 hours just because an Entitled Mother didn't get what she wanted. Currently, I'm in the hospital under supervision. I'll be released once they're sure my pulse and circulation is a little stronger. They know they can't cure it, but they said they'll try to make me at least a little more stable. Man, when are we as a society gonna finally realize that not all physical disabilities are visible? Just because someone looks healthy doesn't mean they aren't struggling with something, so you can't just assume. That was r/entitled parents, and unless you want an entitled mother to attack you the next time you're having fun by yourself, then you'd better hit that subscribe button. Today's video is sponsored by Bombfell. Welcome to r/I don't work here lady, where an entitled Karen calls the cops and gets herself a ticket. I have a highly specific job that usually sends me to construction sites where somebody not knowing what I do would say, I just watch the digger load trucks. Of course, it's more complicated than this, but it's not important for the story. My company is usually hired by the owner of the site, not the company which is actually building there. Because of this, I only have to work with the workers there, but I'm not required to do something else. So, on to the story. I was sent to a construction site in the city with very few parking spaces around. Because of this, the company building there had to deal with the city to declare space alongside the road, usually used for parking, into a no parking zone, so that they could store some of their stuff there and had set up signs to make this clear. It was summer at the time, and pretty hot. The operator of the digger and I were the only people on site through lunchtime when some lady shouted to me to come to the entrance of the construction site. I'd set myself in pretty much the only piece of shadow on the whole site, and wasn't really in the mood to leave that spot. So I shouted back to her to tell me what she wants. Turns out she had parked in the no parking zone and hadn't noticed that the workers had set up a movable fence to surround the zone to be able to store their tools there without getting it stolen right away. So her car, a Porsche, was almost boxed in as 2/3 of her car were in the no parking zone. She's still shouting at me, so after seeing what's going on, I get interested and move on. I get to her covered in dust, taking my time moving up to her. She was in her 40s maybe and wore high heels and a nice dress, typical businesswoman. The whole time, she was shouting at me to speed up and move faster. She's in a hurry. So finally I'm in front of her. "Finally, that took you ages. Now move that dang fence so I can pull out of here. Why would you even box me in?" I turn around slowly and look at her car. It would have been easy for me, even for herself, to move the fence and let her out, but she wasn't very nice and I wasn't obliged to help her. "Sorry, won't do that." "What? Why would you say that? Let me out!" "I don't work here." I said that, standing in front of the construction, covered in dust, wearing my high visibility vest and my hard hat. Left her speechless for a moment. Then all hell broke loose. I was lying, she would get me fired, she would call the police because this was theft, she knew the mayor, and all kinds of other things. I just stood there, pretty amused on the inside, just like the operator in his digger who was laughing so loud I almost could hear him over her screeching. While it was amusing seeing her go off at this point, I was a bit pissed too, because I could only imagine how this entitled brat was speaking to people she actually had power over. While she was in her tirade, two policemen turned the corner. She must have noticed the grin on my face because she abruptly turned around and saw the two approaching her car. Finally, someone who can help me. Tell this douchebag to move the fence so I can pull out. The two policemen looked at her and then at her car, finally at me. One of them walked to the vehicle and the other approached me. What's going on here? She ordered me to let her out of the no parking zone, but I don't work for this building. I pointed to the big signs where the well-known building company advertised itself into my name tag. I wear one on my high visibility vest with my company's name on it. The policeman understood very fast. These no parking zones are pretty common in the city. He walked over to his colleague, who was the target of the woman now, and said a few words to him. He pulled out a small book and began writing a ticket. Only then did it dawn on the lady that she was in trouble. She still kept shouting that she did nothing wrong because she was boxed in and wouldn't be in the no parking zone if only I would let her pull away. He doesn't work here and you're parking in a no parking zone. Here's your ticket. He handed her the ticket and moved the fence to let her pull out. She was standing there a few seconds with the ticket in hand, speechless. Then she got in her car, giving me the stink eye, and drove off. I tipped my hard hat when the two policemen continued their walk and went back to tell the digger operator what happened. Had a good laugh after all. Our next Reddit post is from HGA 2001. This happened maybe an hour or so ago to my friend Topher, and he gave me permission to post it here because we both found it so funny. Topher, who isn't deaf, is fluent in American Sign Language thanks to his job and his degree. To practice, and because he likes the people there, he volunteers at a local deaf community center 3 times a week. Today was a regular volunteering day, and he was asked to check and see if the local Wally World had party supplies for a surprise birthday party they were planning for another volunteer. Topher agreed, and off to the local Wally World he went. As he didn't have anything clean to wear, he was wearing a blue polo shirt and a nice pair of khakis, which also happened to be the same colored uniform most of the workers at Wally World wear. Topher was heading to the party supply section when he heard the classic war call of the Wild Karen. Ahem. Topher turned around and saw a classic Karen. Short Captain Marvel haircut, leopard print leggings, a too tight black shirt, and a face that looked like she had smelled a fresh turd. Because he had spent all day using ASL, Topher was on what he liked to call sign language brain, where he'll sign on reflex. He signed, "Do you sign?" to her. Upon seeing him sign, she grimaced before shouting in a slow voice, "I need help. Do you understand?" Topher was about ready to tell her that he could hear her and to screw off, but he decided to have a little bit of fun at her expense. He held up his hand as if to ask her to wait, took out his smartphone, put it to the Notepad app and typed, "Type here what you need and I'll help you find it." This humble response would make any normal person realize their bad manners and apologize profusely. But then again, I think everyone who's read or experienced an I Don't Work Here Ladies story knows Karens lack this ability. So for the next 20 minutes, Karen ordered Topher around. She had him grabbing stuff, only to put it away when it was squashed or bent or dinged, etc. Going to various aisles to get various things. Wait outside for her at the changing room, the works. Topher was thinking about the best way to let the cat out of the bag when Karen got a phone call from her friend Wendy. Topher turned his back so that he could hide that he could hear. "Hey Wendy, yeah, I'm fine. Just a deaf kid helping me out. Yeah, they hire deaf people here. Can you believe it? No wonder service here has gone to the pits. They should stick with their own kind if talking is going to be a problem." Topher was pissed at this point. Because he's worked with the deaf community for so long, he gets really angry whenever he hears them getting treated badly. But calmer senses prevailed, and he prepared his "shut up Hannibal" speech. Finally, after 20 minutes, Karen announced that she was done and ready to check out. Topher walked her to a register that just opened and turned to her. "Please tell your friend Wendy that I said hello." The look on Karen's face when she realized what had happened was priceless. Our next Reddit post is from Spaceman Charisma. Backstory. In the winter of 2017, my family went on a huge road trip from where we lived in Northern California all the way to Arizona and Nevada. We spent 5 days in Arizona and Christmas in a hotel overlooking the Grand Canyon, and then we were off to Nevada, where we were going to spend just a few nights to celebrate my dad's birthday and see a David Copperfield show. We ate dinner at an adjoining restaurant called the Wolfgang Puck, and then my parents left my sister and I, 14 and 16 at the time, to go to their hotel room alone so long as we got them some dessert and were back to our room within the hour. We got Black Forest chocolate cake and some rum and raisin ice cream and headed back upstairs, along with the leftover food from dinner. When we reached the 8th floor, we stepped out and began walking to our room, down the hall and to the right. Just as we turned the corner, a door to our left opened. An irate-looking woman stepped out, tapping her foot impatiently and staring expectantly at us.
Finally! It shouldn't take you over an hour to deliver some gosh darn cake.
What do you... She grabs for the food I'm carrying. The dessert. My sister had the leftovers.
Give those here. I'm a paying customer. I won't stand for you mouthing off like that.
Hey, what are you doing? That's my food. I jerk back. My sister is already several feet back, looking amused but also worried. Probably about the cake, not me.
Listen, I don't want to hear your excuses. Another word out of either of you and I'll have you reported.
What the ever-loving flip are you on about? We are effing guests at the hotel, and you better stay the F back. The waiter comes around the corner. In front of him is a huge cart that's literally piled with food. Hello? I heard yelling. Is something wrong?
Your stupid employees not only came an hour late with my food, but they're now being argumentative and are refusing to give me the food. Are you in charge around here? Maybe you can talk some sense into them.
The waiter turns to me. Young man, is what she's saying. He stops mid-sentence, realizing that he's talking to a 5'3" teen whose voice hasn't even cracked yet. Ma'am, I don't know who you think these people are, but they aren't waiters. They have food, yes, but that's from Wolfgang Puck, as you can see from the box logo. And it's not even where you ordered the food from. She tries to interrupt, but he cuts her off. I know, because I have your food right here. The crazy lady goes pretty red and shuts up right away. After that, the waiter told us to wait a bit further down the hall and finished up giving the lady her dessert. Then he came back to us. He escorted us to our rooms, and for the most part, that was the end of that. We did get some free breakfast cards delivered to our door early the next morning, but we were leaving for a lunch engagement on our drive home, and there wasn't time to use them. Our next Reddit post is from Wanders the Galaxy. So, I work at a rent-to-own furniture store right down the road from a Walmart, so come payday, I usually go straight to Walmart after clicking out. Our uniforms are made up of black pants or jeans and various blue shirts. However, our shirts have the company logo embroidered on the top left near the collar. I've been mistaken for an employee a few times, but most people just laugh it off when I tell them I don't work for Walmart. Yesterday though, this Karen wasn't having it. Last night, I was finishing up some last-minute Christmas/grocery shopping. I hung around in the electronics section for a little while, waiting for an employee to come help me as I've been interested in getting a new phone. But it's the holiday season and they were absolutely swamped. No big deal. I go to push my cart, filled with a few presents and groceries, and I honestly just want to get out of there because the customer traffic is getting to be a little too much for me. Thanks to my crippling social anxiety, I don't do crowds. I'm trying to gently push past this woman, but her and her cart are right in the middle of the aisle, taking up as much space as she possibly could, and I barely ding the corner of it.
Excuse you,
she says, reeling back and regaining her balance as if I hit her with a brick. Oh, sorry, I mumble. I try to push past her again.
I've been waiting here forever.
She'd been waiting there maybe a minute. She certainly hadn't been there when I got there just a few minutes before.
There's a video game I need you to get for me.
In case you don't know, Walmart keeps all their video games in locked glass cabinets, and you need an employee to unlock it for you so they can grab the video game and immediately bring you over to checkout. The same for controllers, consoles, and accessories. I point to the logo on my shirt. I actually don't work here. I work at another company. The Karen sighed and tapped her foot.
I don't care if you're on break or whatever, just get me the video game.
I can't. I don't work here. You'll have to get an employee.
You are an employee,
Karen says, getting louder. No, I'm a customer, shopping. Just like you, I'll be going now. I try, once again, to push past her.
I know the manager of this store, and they won't be happy to hear that their employee is being rather disobedient.
This woman rammed her cart into mine to stop me from walking beside her. Instead, I try to turn around and leave that way. She's not having it.
I demand to speak to your manager.
I'm on the verge of crying at this point. I just want out of this situation. My manager is at home, and I don't work here. I just want to check out and go home. This is what sets her off, and when the screaming begins.
I just want the video game for my son. It's for Christmas. Why do you want to ruin Christmas for me and my family?
I'm sobbing now. I can't handle people raising their voice at me. I don't work here, I cry at her.
Yes, you do. Get me the video game.
One of the employees in electronics finally gets through the line of people they were checking out and came over to investigate. He looks at me, sobbing like a child, and then to Karen, and his shoulders slump, like he knows what's going down. What seems to be the problem here? He asked me. I try my best to explain that this crazy woman is screaming at me and somehow thinks I'm an employee. But I'm blubbering and I can't get too many words out, so Karen takes it upon herself to tell the employee what happened.
Your coworker here is being extremely rude. She's been cursing at me and slammed her cart into mine several times to get me to move. I asked her to get a video game for me, but she told me to F off.
No, I yell, but that's really all I can manage to choke out. The employee looks down at my shirt and sighs. Ma'am, this young lady doesn't work here. She's an employee in another company. Karen puts her hands on her hips and rolls her eyes so hard I thought they might roll right out of their sockets.
I just need someone to get me the video game for Christ's sake.
The employee leans on my shopping cart. We're pretty busy over here. I don't know if you're aware, but Christmas isn't just 2 days. I'm sorry we were unable to get to you in a timely manner, but being impatient isn't an excuse to verbally abuse another customer just because their shirts happen to be blue.
You people are insufferable. I'll have you know that I'm friends with the manager and he'll be hearing about this. I'll be taking my business to GameStop.
She starts to walk away, and I think that's the end of it, but no. For her finale, Karen pushes her cart over, sending everything that was in it skidding and sliding across the floor. She stormed off, like Karens do, but not before the employee could wish her a happy holiday. I thanked the employee as soon as I could get the tears to stop flowing, and I checked out as fast as I could. The lesson I learned: not to go to Walmart under any circumstances during the holidays. Well, of course she knows the manager. When you call the manager every single time you go into a business, then eventually you get to know quite a few managers. I hate shopping for clothes. Not only is it pure torture, but on top of that, I don't have a clue what's fashionable nowadays. That's why I like to use personal stylist services like Bombfell. It's pretty easy. Basically, you take an online style quiz, you preview the stylist picks before they ship, and then you try it on at home. And if you don't like it, you just send it back and get your money back. But if you find something you like, you just keep it. And best of all, you get 20% off of every order when you keep the entire order. So go ahead and check it out. Go to bombfell.com// That's the symbol slash slash by the word slash for $25 off your first order. That's bombfell.com, the symbol slash, and then the word slash. That was r/I don't work here lady, and if you like this content, then be sure to hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit content every single day. Welcome to r/malicious compliance, where OP gets $75,000 revenge. I work for a large shipping company in Canada. I work early in the morning loading trucks, but as needed, would go out and deliver packages. At first it was here and there, but it soon became normal that after my regularly scheduled shift, I would go out and deliver. This wasn't a requirement of my job. I was basically doing it as a favor because it looks really bad on the managers to have packages go undelivered, and I thought it would look good on me. I did this for a few years without any issue. One winter, one of the drivers at a different depot slipped and hurt himself while out delivering. This caused a new initiative to force all drivers to wear super slip-proof boots that have glass embedded in them. These run about $250. All the drivers received vouchers that would cover the cost because the requirements of doing the job. When I went to the manager to ask if I would be getting a voucher, he replied with, "No, sorry, you're not a courier," and walked away. I went and told the other employees that were in a similar situation to mine, and they were pretty displeased. The next day, as usual after my shift, the manager started telling me the things I would be delivering that day. I waited for him to finish and responded with, "Sorry, I'm not a courier." He looked very confused, like he didn't remember our conversation from the day before. So I explained that I wasn't going to go out delivering because I wouldn't have the proper safety equipment. He had that "I just smelt a fart" face and just looked at me for a second. He said, "If you just work a few extra shifts, then you can afford to buy the boot yourself." I was actually stunned, and I didn't know what to say, so we just stared at each other for a minute. I eventually replied, sorta laughing because of how ridiculous this is. "So, you want me to work without the safety equipment you made mandatory until I can afford to buy it for myself?" He scoffed at me like a 14-year-old girl and walked away without an answer. A few others followed suit, and when the managers asked them to go out delivering after their shift, they replied with, "Sorry, I'm not a courier." After all was said and done, they had so many leftover packages, a few companies started dropping contracts, which directly affects the managers' end-of-year bonuses. They ended up having to give promotions to a lot of workers that were doing double work for half the pay to cover all the backlog. So we all ended up getting paid more to do less, and best of all, we finally got our safety boots, lol. Our next Reddit post is from Wheaton Walker. Many years ago, I worked as a maintenance technician on an automated assembly line. It was my job to perform quality edits throughout the section of the line where I worked. If something didn't pass inspection, then I would put the product on hold and test additional samples. Whenever this further test failed, I would stop production, notify the lead or supervisor, and then troubleshoot and repair the machine in question. For a few years, I worked the night shift. The night shift supervisor, who I'll call TD Gray, had a habit of vanishing for most of the night. He would be around at the start of the shift. We worked 12-hour shifts, and then he would show up after the morning meeting and maybe dawdle about the office until the end of the shift. As I was doing my audits one night, I found a machine that was drifting out of specifications. I shut it down and paged Mr. Gray, but he didn't respond. I found the issue causing the quality failure and got the parts required for the repair. The repair took about an hour, followed by testing of 100% of the product for a few minutes. Meanwhile, TD Gray returned from the morning meeting. He was angry and walked straight up to me and asked who authorized me to shut down his machine. I tried to explain that it had failed an audit and that I was just following procedure. TD wasn't interested in anything I had to say. Apparently, during the morning meeting, he reported that our area was running with no issues. An engineer who would walk our area each morning contradicted him and said that the technician had one of the machines down for an hour and was just now releasing it to production. TD gave me a written warning and told me that I do not have the authority to stop production without his approval. A month or so later, a similar situation arose and I tried paging Mr. Gray, who didn't respond. I should mention that this was well before cell phones, and no, we didn't carry pagers. To page someone, you had to call the reception desk and they would page them over the PA system. Since there wasn't a receptionist at night, this function was handled by a security guard. I told security to page Mr. Gray every 5 minutes until he responded. They wanted to do it every 30 minutes, but I insisted on nothing less than every 10 minutes, and I also wanted them to log each page. This was normal procedure, but they often would just record one entry in the log regardless of how many times they repeat the page. When the engineer came in, he looked at my audit sheet and asked me why I hadn't stopped production. I explained that I had been told I couldn't without Mr. Gray's approval. I also told him that security had been paging him every 10 minutes since I found the issue. The engineer stopped production and told me to begin repairs. He then got a copy of the log from security and went to the morning meeting. When TD Gray reported that all machines were running with no issues, the engineer spoke up and asked why security had been paging him every 10 minutes for over 3 hours. I never did find out where Mr. Gray went every night or what he did, but he soon had more time to do whatever it was. Looks like there will be no pay for Mr. Gray. Our next Reddit post is from Hope We Sink. The house I grew up in was built on the side of a hill. Great views, but the geography posed some challenges for the city utilities, sewage in particular. Their solution was to put all the houses on the hill in what was called a shared line. Essentially, one big pipe ran through all of our backyards, just below the house's basements. Effluent would flow out from the houses, into the shared pipes, and then down the hill to the city sewer line by the bottommost house. When we moved in, we were at the highest point that it was possible to build on and still be part of that shared sewer line. But a few years later, someone bought a lot just over the crest of the hill and linked up with ours, without being part of the planned community that had an HOA that took care of the sewer line, among other things. And, in fact, they did so without the HOA's approval. And so, for the next 2 decades, my family would be the subject of near constant harassment over the state of the sewer. Their end of the line was lower than ours by just enough that it would stop flowing and clog, often backing up into their basement bathroom and shower. They'd accuse us of diverting our refuse to their line because I guess we were some kind of plumbing wizards. Now, the reason nobody built a house on that part of the hill during the original development was that the soil wasn't stable, something hydrology related. Sure enough, over the years, the house would occasionally separate from the hill and slide down a couple of inches. But our neighbors had connections in the code enforcement agency, so the place never got condemned like it should be. They just had to shore it up and reconnect all the utilities. The thing is, the further down the house moved, the steeper the negative incline was from their sewer connection to our junction box, making the clogs and backups even worse. At one point, it got so bad that their sewer barely flowed. Some days, it got completely clogged. Somehow, this was our fault. They spent the next year calling us every time they tried to flush a toilet and poo came out of their downstairs shower. They called a plumber who said they had to redo their part of the shared line, and to do it, they'd have to bust through our 2-story masonry wall so they could get a backhoe onto our property and dig out the line. Of course, we had issues with this. We said, no, you will not come onto our property and tear it up with a huge piece of construction equipment. Hire human laborers or something. But instead, they hired lawyers who started slinging paper around. According to them, we were in violation of state law that specifically gave an implied easement granting a homeowner access through another's property to maintain their own. So we hired lawyers of our own who said that we basically had a choice. We could win the case, but pay a ton of money, or just let it happen. Either way, we'd be screwed. But they pointed out one important fact. That 20-year-old masonry wall wasn't in the greatest of shape anyway, so... A few months later, we presented them with a bill for $75,000 for the rebuilding of the wall, installation of a new set of stairs, replacement of the entire wrought iron fence that had separated the 2 properties, resodding, replacement of ornamental plants and shrubs, and some minor repairs to our sewer, which they had borked up while relaying their pipes. I'm not a general contractor, but my guess is that they could have hired pick and shovel labor to dig out that pipe and replace it with a new one for a fraction of that price. But no, they had to have a giant Caterpillar tread machine do it. They balked. But then we handed them a Xerox copy of the letter the lawyer had sent us with, pursuant to paragraph blah blah of the Common Code of blah blah blah, citing the next paragraph which stated that the person using the easement was 100% responsible for any damage that might be caused. They still balked, but my parents put a lien on their property that stayed there to the day they tried to sell, at which point they had to pay up or the purchaser's creditors wouldn't underwrite a mortgage. I think they had to pay interest too, but I'm not 100% sure about that. Then, Sumo Ninja 17 has a contribution down in the comments. I raise and train dogs. I had a kennel with a concrete floor in an old house. Neighbor comes over and tells me the kennel smells and is causing them grief when they use their pool. I took care to clean it every day, but I hired a company to come in and clean it twice a week, including scrubbing the floor with bleach. On a hot summer day, he comes back, polite, but obviously aggravated by the smell. I walked him back to the kennel, and we stood right at the edge of the run. There were several piles of puppy exhaust, but no odor. I looked at my neighbor and asked him, how can my kennel be ruining your yard with odors if we can't smell anything standing right next to it? He looked totally confused. Truth be told, I was confused too. I asked him to take me into his yard so I could see or smell what he was talking about. We went into his yard closest to my kennel, and the odor could have knocked a buzzard off a gut wagon. The stench was truly overwhelming. We gagged and made our way back to my yard. I told him that I now understood why he was so angry. I also told him what he smelled was not dog waste. He was smelling sewage. There's a difference between dog and human waste. He was more confused than ever. Short version, we found out that the farm behind us had multiple cesspools that were overflowing. They flowed downhill towards our yards. To my luck, the concrete floor of my kennel blocked the flow from getting into my yard, and since his yard was a low point, it all flowed into his yard. I joined forces with him to help fix the issue. The farm owners refused to do anything about the problem, until my brother-in-law, who worked for the water department in the water treatment plant of a neighboring big city, came to visit and looked at the issue. He said the issue was a major health issue and gave me the wording needed to make the owners fix the problem. Our health department came out the next day and deemed the farm uninhabitable. Basically, one small step from condemning it. The problem was fixed in a week. The farm owners dug up and filled in their 3 cesspools and connected their property to the local sewer lines, which were not available when the farm was built. It cost the farm owners well over $100,000 to fix the problem. And my next door neighbor and I were good neighbors until I moved. So, was anyone else expecting the neighbor to not listen to reason and continue to complain about OP? Maybe reading all these stories is giving me a cynical view of humanity. Our next Reddit post is from VW Beds. I had to make a business trip to another city, Brighton from my home Bristol. There aren't really any decent train connections without going via outer London, and you're talking about 4 or 5 hours train travel each way. So instead I decided to drive, under 3 hours, and to avoid being away from the family, I got up early and left home at 5 a.m. So I arrive at Brighton and need to wait on some colleagues. I know my employer will meet my cost for breakfast up to £8, so I went to Subway and had a breakfast sub for under £3. I waited for the others and 30 minutes later they arrived, so I offered to buy a coffee and one for myself so we can talk and plan before meeting our supplier at their offices. Fast forward and the day goes fine. I travel home same day and come to submit my expenses for £3 breakfast and £2 for 2 coffees, still under the £8 allowance. The finance team rejected my expenses for the coffee as, "You've already claimed for breakfast." I pointed out it was the same cafe within 30 minutes, and that if I'd bought the coffee at the same time as a sandwich, they'd approve it. What's more, as I traveled on the day of the meeting from home, I wasn't entitled to claim for lunch. I was told it was tough, and I should stick to the expenses policy in the future. Okay. I've recently returned from visiting the same supplier as before. However, this time, I left work at lunchtime the day before to avoid traveling on my own time and ensure I arrived at a hotel during my normal working day. I then had an evening meal with drinks, a nice room in a city center hotel, a full buffet breakfast, and my parking and travel costs all covered. Since I traveled the day before, I'm entitled to claim lunch as I couldn't have taken a packed lunch from home, and lastly, since I arrived home after 8 p.m., I claimed not only for another evening meal on the way home, but a half day of time off in lieu for the time spent traveling home. At least I stuck to the expenses policy this time. Too long, didn't read, kept my expenses under £5, and got them refused due to not following policy. Followed the policy, and company paid about £400 of expenses. Violent Goth down in the comments says it best. A true example of saving a penny, spending a pound. Our next Reddit post is from Rachel Shee. Background story. I was hospitalized one night for a spine problem and waiting for surgery the next morning. I was in a big double bed room with another patient with a couple of curtains separating the 2 beds. The other patient was a stroke patient with no speaking ability or mobility, and she had a caretaker, not the patient's family. I was in agony, so the doctor gave me something strong to fall asleep, and it worked till 5 a.m. My caretaker neighbor, for whatever reason, started playing very loud music from her phone. I was jerking awake and pissed. It's 5 in the effing morning. Are you kidding me? Let me sleep. So I asked her politely to turn off the music or use a headphone. Surprisingly, she just ignored me, not even bothering to say a word. The music was so loud that the nurse came in and asked her to turn it down because patients from the next room were complaining. The caretaker told the nurse her employer wasn't complaining, so she's fine with the music. If there's a problem, they should talk to her employer, not her. Her employer wasn't able to speak and move. This is basically torture. Here's the malicious compliance part. I noticed my neighbor patient always went to physical therapy at 9 a.m. and her horrible caretaker would stay in the room and sleep till 11:30 a.m. Also, I made sure there's no other patients in the next rooms and told the nurse what my plan is. Then, I had my laptop and Bluetooth speaker with me and started to play the whole 2016 Tomorrowland playlist and turned the room into a nightclub. The caretaker was so pissed and screamed at me, saying she was sleeping and my music woke her up. Well, tell your employer to file a complaint against me to the hospital, or let your employer talk to me directly. Since then, my journey in the hospital has been 100 times easier. Our next Reddit post is from the Salty Potito. This isn't me, but my parents. They absolutely love to tell this story. Before I was born, and if I'm correct, while they were still in their dating phase, they lived in Alaska. Both of them worked very hard, and it was a bit of traveling considering Alaska has certain parts where cities are few and far between. My mother had been sleeping when my father had just gotten home from work super early in the morning. Both of them were exhausted. My father had been quite hungry since lunch wasn't really as filling as he needed. He's a 6'6", about 330-pound man, so it takes a lot. He made the mistake of waking up my mother, who is the queen of malicious compliance, to go make him something to eat. She grumbled but got up, walked to the kitchen, and came back and handed him a bowl of Cheerios. My father can be picky sometimes. He looked at her, looked at the Cheerios, and said, "Well, I was kinda hoping for something warm." My mother, wanting to be so nice for her tired, hard-working boyfriend, just took the bowl and sighed. All she muttered was, "Okay, I'll see what I can do," and went off to the kitchen. A few minutes later, she comes back with the same bowl and hands it to my father, who notices it is indeed warm. He was very pleased only until he realized she had microwaved the Cheerios and already gone back to sleep. Needless to say, he didn't ask her to cook at 2 a.m. again. And then OP adds that his parents have been happily married for 20 years, probably because the husband learned that critical lesson very early in the relationship. That was r/malicious compliance, and if you like this content, then don't forget to subscribe because I put out new videos every single day. Welcome to r/entitled parents, where an entitled mother steals someone's service animal. So today, I had to take my dog to the vet for her semi-annual blood test. She absolutely loves going to the vet and was super excited to go play with all the techs. Afterwards, we walked to the pet store just down the street because she's definitely on the nice list and deserves a new toy for Christmas. Now, my dog is an Akita, so she's pretty big and I understand that she's a little scary looking. She's also super gentle and seems to understand that kids especially can be intimidated by her, so when she sees new people, she won't run up to them, but she will get excited and start wagging her tail, which is adorable because it's a curly cinnamon roll. As a result, I don't feel the need to do anything like pull her away from scared people. I honestly think that only makes things worse because she'll always wait for them to close the gap anyways. So we walk into the store and it's pretty quiet. We're just walking towards dog toys and my dog is laser focused on the table of dog treats. A mom and her kid walk past and he points to my dog and calls it a wolf. Her face is all black and she's big enough that it isn't really a stretch. The mom then stops me and the following conversation happened.
Excuse me, that breed is banned. You can't bring it in here.
I'm pretty sure the store doesn't have a banned breed list. It's a pet store.
That's a wolf hybrid and it's scaring my kid. You need to leave.
I'm sorry your kid is afraid of dogs, but she's not a wolf hybrid and she's not bothering you. This whole time, we're still standing next to the treat table, so the dog hasn't moved an inch closer to them. She's just staring at the food with her tail wagging.
My son is scared. You two need to leave.
No. At this point, my dog decided that these must be new friends. She took a step towards them with her tail still wagging at top speed. She stretched her head towards them, though they were still 2 or 3 feet away, to ask for pets, and the kid was just frozen staring. The mother just picked up her kid and walked the other way. I just chuckled and we went to look at dog toys. When I went to check out, the cashier told me the lady had complained about my wolf hybrid, and they had to tell her that all dogs who aren't acting aggressively are more than welcome in the store. The lady was ignored, and my good girl got 2 treats from the nice worker. Not a very climactic, crazy story, but I was amused that some crazy lady thought a dog shouldn't be in a pet store. I love the logic of this lady. She sees what she honestly believes is a dangerous animal, and her first response isn't to grab her child and run away, it's to get closer and argue with the person holding the allegedly dangerous animal. If this lady sees a grizzly bear in the woods, does she come up to it and be like, "You grizzly bears need to get out of my woods, now!" Our next Reddit post is from Indie1 Online. Over the years, I noticed that the worst culprit for choosing beggars are usually family members, especially the random ones who sort of relate to you, but deep down, you don't really know each other all that well. This incident actually occurred quite a long time ago, over 10 years ago, and I've almost forgotten about it until someone reminded me about it last weekend. Way back over 10 years ago, I just got a promotion to a new role and bought some new tools, including a new Apple MacBook for work. I was living in London at the time and was in a small flat/apartment, which means space was a premium. So I decided that I should get rid of some of the stuff in the house. One of those was a PC that was a few years old at the time. Back then, my grandma used to call me up every few days just to chat about stuff, and I mentioned to her about the promotion and the new stuff I bought and the old stuff I'm giving away. And being an old lady whose hobby was basically to phone call the family, she passed the news on to a few relatives. One of my aunts heard the news and told her younger kid. A few days later, my aunt and her kid called me up and said they'll take the computer. Great, come over to my place and collect it. They drove over the next day, and then it turned into a long argument with me once they arrived. For some reason, probably due to the fact that my grandma doesn't really know about computers and stuff, or my aunt misheard it, or whatever. They thought they were picking up my brand new MacBook instead of the few-year-old desktop. My aunt, being an adult, at least understood that it must be a miscommunication. My little cousin, though, was throwing a huge tantrum over it in my house. He kept going on about how sucky the specs of the machine is and how it would be useless to him. And bear in mind, he wasn't like an 8-year-old at this time. He was 13 years old. Still a kid, I know, but he should be at an age where he understands that his distant cousin is not gonna randomly give him a brand new computer just for homework. My aunt was trying to just get the computer out of my place, and I just wanted to get them and the computer out of my house, and my girlfriend just wanted all the crying. Yep, 13-year-old boy crying was quite a scene. Noises to stop so she could focus on her work. At the end, they just left, empty-handed of course, since the kid doesn't want the old PC and I wasn't ready to give him my new one. I thought that was that, but then, later that night, my uncle, my cousin's entitled dad, called me up and demanded an explanation of why I backed out on a deal, and that was not the way to treat the family, etc, etc. The phone call ended with me hanging up on him, which led to a lecture from my grandma the next day over the phone and took me an hour to explain what happened. And that led to a lecture from her to my uncle, which led to more phone calls and an argument. My uncle complained that now his son has no computer to use, and I told him he can still pick up my computer, which is still sitting in my house at the time. I didn't get an answer until 2 days later, and he sent me a list of things he wants me to upgrade for the computer that I'm planning to give away with my own money. Obviously, I just ignored them at this time. And good job, my family always had a lot of drama, probably stirred up by my very bored grandma, come to think of it. So very soon, everyone was onto the new storyline to follow. And what happened to the computer? I ended up giving it to a neighbor on the same floor whom I've talked to a few times. They were in a less fortunate position than us, and their 2 teenage children at the time used to use the computers at school and the library for their homework. Once my girlfriend found out about that, it was a natural place to send my computer to. At first, they refused it because they couldn't give me money for it, but we weren't looking to take any money anyway because A, it wasn't worth all that much anyway, and B, it was much easier to bring the dang thing just across a few doors than anywhere else. They were our neighbor for a few years before I moved back from the block. I didn't even think much of what happened with it anymore until recently when I was contacted by the older one of the 2 children. Apparently, he had just graduated from university and just started a job. We talked about a few things, and he thanked me again for giving him the computer all those years ago. Apparently, it's still being used by their parents at their home. It's funny how things can turn out sometimes. Pretty sure my cousin has still not forgiven me for not giving him a MacBook though. Our next Reddit post is from Bear Mahogany. I have PTSD, depression, and, at the time, undiagnosed bipolar disorder. This will explain some of my behavior throughout. When my conditions got worse, I adopted a 1.5-year-old McNab Collie, a short-hair border collie / sighthound mix to be my psychiatric service animal. He looks like a small greyhound, but with collie's markings, head, and paws. He is insanely smart and picked up training really quickly. When I would have a panic attack coming on, he was trained to perform a very specific signal to get my attention and alert me to sit down while he tried to distract me. This is important later. My wife calls me a fainting goat because when I panic, I lose consciousness with little notice and drop wherever I am. My job was not safe for my dog to come with me at the time, so while I was searching for better employment, my wife would look after him. I was working about 15 minutes away from my apartment at the time when I get a panicked call from my wife saying my dog had been stolen. I don't ask questions, I just pack up my bag and jacket and bolt for the door. My manager asks what happened, and I tell him my dog's been stolen, and he tells me to keep him updated. I made it home in 5 minutes, and my wife is outside sobbing with our roommate, looking like he's gonna kill someone. I ask what happened, and they tell me that they had been sitting on our enclosed front porch next to the complex entrance drinking coffee. It was a sunny day, and McNabs are bred for really hot weather, so my dog was sunning himself on the sidewalk on the other side of the half wall that separates our porch from the sidewalk. All our neighbors know him, and he's a herder, so he never went more than 15 feet from his pack and would constantly come check in with us. He wasn't wearing his vest or a collar as they were in front of our place. They hadn't seen him for maybe 15 minutes, and when he wasn't on the sidewalk, they panicked and started asking people if they'd seen anything. A guy walking his dog said he saw someone loading a dog matching mine into their car and driving off. That's when they freaked out and called me. I panicked and called 911 immediately, saying someone had stolen my service animal. In our state, animals are considered people, so stealing a dog is akin to actually kidnapping and taken very seriously. There was an officer at our door in 5 minutes getting our statement, along with the man who saw what happened and was nice enough to wait. The officer put my number in his phone, gave me his card, and said to call if I heard anything. We start wandering the neighborhood asking anyone outside if they'd seen a dog matching mine. After striking out walking the 4 blocks of surrounding neighborhoods, we start calling every pet store and vet in the area, starting close and working our way out. After 2 hours of calling and being on the verge of passing out, I call one last store I had forgot about. They tell me there is a dog matching mine with the woman who has him on a makeshift lead in the store. I ask the employee to go over, say his name, and hold his hand up like he's signaling someone to halt. He does, and my dog does what he was trained to do, which is stand up and hug that arm to get my attention and break me out of my anxiety spiral. I tell them to keep them there, and I'll be there in 2 minutes. On my way, my roommate calls the officer, who says he's in an emergency but will call me as soon as he's done. We get there, and we see a car matching the dog walker's description in the parking lot. There's a kid, maybe 10ish, sitting in the passenger seat with the window down, playing phone games. I recognize the car as one from the complex across the street from us. We walk into the store, and I spot my dog with an impatient-looking woman standing near the counter. I call my dog, and he immediately rips out of the woman's grasp and bounds over, trying to tackle me. I go up and, in not-so-friendly words, ask the woman what the actual flip she thought she was doing stealing my dog. She makes some half-hearted excuse about believing he was a stray and was trying to take care of him. I responded with, "Thank you for taking care of him, but F you for stealing him." The employee tries to calm me down and says I'm being unfair and she was trying to do a good thing. I snap at him that he needs to stay out of this because he's not helping. Entitled Mother then says in that snooty tone that Karens have patented,
"Well, I asked a bunch of people and tried to see who owned him, but no one answered, so I rescued him."
My roommate pipes up with, "Woman, I'm 6'3", have bleach blonde hair, and was sitting in the sun 15 feet from the dog. You did not try hard enough." She starts to lecture me about
starving him because you can see his ribs and he was so hungry.
He has a very high metabolism, a working breed, and an allergy to starches, so I make his food from home. He literally eats healthier than I do. She then tells me that that's a lie because he ate an entire 5-pound bag of sucky kibble before they came to the store. He's a beggy food whore, and I about decked her. By this time, she's getting pissy and trying to act like I'm an animal abuser and don't deserve my dog, and that there's no way he's a service dog even though I have his vest in my hand. She then has the gall to suggest that her and her kid could take so much better care of him. The employee tells me to be more polite and that I was out of line treating her this way, and if I didn't behave, I would be removed from the store. The employee's manager had come out after hearing yelling and, without knowing any of the situation, threatens to call the cops on my roommate and I for harassing this poor woman. I pull out the officer's card and tell him I'll save him the time. Because the officer has my report, and if he had been here instead of me, the woman would be going to jail for kidnapping. She panics and beats it out of there while I'm still arguing with the manager. As we're leaving, the employee follows us to the door and the manager lectures us about treating the woman badly and that I was banned from his store. I flip him off and we head home. I called the cop, but in my panic had forgotten to get the license plate, so he told me to keep an eye out for her in the future. My dog got a steak and veggie dinner that night, but started throwing up. He spent the next 3 months working that garbage food out of his system and itching/chewing himself raw in places. I ended up staying home for 3 days with a constant anxiety attack, but my boss was chill and gave me extra vacation pay. The only good thing that came from the whole debacle, besides getting my dog back, was the next day I called the owner of the pet store. They only had 3 locations, and I knew from shopping at one of the other stores that he was usually there 3 days a week. I explained what happened and how the manager and employee had treated me, and he told me not to worry. I should swing by his main store to pick up a free cow bone for the pup, and he would handle the rest. I found out later that the employee was immediately terminated and the manager was demoted and eventually fired for sucky customer service practices. I genuinely believe 100% that taking someone's dog is grounds for getting your ass beat. Our next Reddit post is from Car Freak. I've had a bit of good financial luck in my late 20s and 30s. My dad died in 2007, and my mom has been riding his life insurance settlement into the ground. She overspent 3 brand new Mercedes among a ton of other idiotic purchases since 2007, and is now having to Airbnb her house to make ends meet. In the past 4 months, I've given her over $5 grand to keep her afloat. Today, I received an itemized bill in the mail totaling lodging, food, schooling, entertainment, and vacation expenses that she had incurred since the time I was born. The bill exceeded $250,000. I called her this evening to congratulate her on her hilarious joke when it became clear that she wasn't joking and indeed felt entitled to $253,032.56 of my money. Her reasoning:
You wouldn't be worth 1/10 of what you are now without my influence. You can afford to lose that kind of money. Why not just give it to me before you piss it away?
This is one of the many reasons that there are more than 2,000 miles in between my front door and hers. This is the last reason I needed to never give her another penny of my money. I've got a therapy appointment on Monday. I can't wait to bring this BS up. OP, you should send your mom your therapy bill. I'm sure she would end up owing you a lot more. That was r/entitled parents, and if you like this content, don't forget to hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day. Welcome to r/choosing beggars, where a woman unleashes her inner gold digger. Hey, is this the guy selling the signed comic? Yeah, you got it. The only one I'm selling at the moment is up for $800, but if we do it direct, I could maybe knock $100 off. Are you based nearby? What? You expect me to pay $700 for it? Just cause it's signed by some dude? Yeah, I do. It's an X-Men comic from the 70s that's signed by Stan Lee and Chris Claremont. They aren't just some dude, and that's about what you'd pay in US dollars for one. The price on the comic says 35 cents. I'm not paying more than that. What are you talking about? Where? On the listing? No, on the front of the comic. 35 cents. I might pay $10 cause you got some dudes to sign it, but I haven't even heard of those dudes. Yeah, we're done here. Come on, man, don't be a dick. I'm a big Marvel fan, and so is my brother, and I'ma get it for him for Christmas. How about $20 delivered? You're a big Marvel fan, but you haven't heard of Stan Lee? Nah, I googled him, and he ain't anyone. $20, final offer. Okay, first off, yes, the comic was 35 cents when it was published in 1978. That's not its price now. It's been graded by CGC as 8.5 and they witnessed Stan Lee and Chris Claremont sign it. Chris popularized X-Men over the 80s/early 90s, and Stan Lee created the X-Men, amongst others, and is synonymous with Marvel. This is worth a lot. I'm willing to sell to someone for roughly what I paid in USD for it a couple of years ago because there aren't a lot of these in New Zealand, and I want others to have one, but what you're asking is preposterous. I'ma report you for price inflation and deception. If there's a marked price on something, then you gotta sell it for that. Cute, but that's not true. Hey, come on, F you, man, it's Christmas. I already told my brother I'm getting this for him. He's had a rough year, man. His girlfriend dumped him, and his new girlfriend is poor. Is this a prank? F you and your comic, grunt. Hello? Hello? $40 final offer. Hello? F you. F you. How about I come steal it, and that way you pay me to put up with this BS? Yeah, okay. Expect a phone call from the police. This guy doesn't know who Stan Lee is? I'm pretty sure my grandma knows who Stan Lee is. Hey, you still got the bike for sale? What's your lowest price? Hey there, yes, the bike is still available. I'm asking $250, but I'm a little negotiable on the price. How much were you thinking? Well, you're in blank, right? If I get a ride to pick it up, can you do 100? 'Cause you're like an hour away. No, sorry, 100 is way too low. I've had offers for 200 already, so 220 would be the lowest I would accept. Unless you can come get it today, and then I'll let it go for 200. I gotta drive an hour to you, man, so 120 is all you're gonna get. Or you drop it off to me in like 2 hours and I'll give you 140, okay? I'm sorry, I already stated in the ad that it was pickup only. I won't deliver it, and as I said, I've already had offers for 200 tomorrow from people locally. So I don't see any reason for me to accept your offer, but let me know if you can come pick it up for 200 anytime today, and it's yours. Dude, come on, you're being dumb. You're not gonna get 200 for it. Just bring it to me and get 120 right now. Yo, I found a ride. I'll be there in like 45 minutes. What's your address? I got 100 cash for you right now, ASAP. Hello? Dude, alright man, the offer is gonna keep going less if you don't reply, man. Right now, I got 80 for you. Answer, or when I get there, I'll only pay 60. I'm not giving you my address because I'm not accepting your offer. I've already said multiple times now that I won't take less than $200 for it, so I don't know where you're driving right now, but you're not buying my bike for 60 or 80 or even 100. I really hope you're not actually driving towards me because if so, you're just wasting time and gas. Please don't contact me again unless you're bringing 200 bucks for my bike. Man, F you, you're full of garbage. We had an effing deal and now you're backing out? How about I just take your effing bike and you don't get anything? See you soon, baby boy. Sounds great. I'll let you know when you get here, bud. Let me know how long it takes you to find my house. If you can find me before the end of the day, you can have the bike for free. Haha, you think you're funny. Just wait. Tell me where you live if you think you're so tough. Okay, alright man, I'll give you 220. What's your address? What's your address? Bundle of sticks, punk jerk, mother effer. Mother effer, answer me.
Hey, I'm the friend Blank posted about the dog.
You win. I'll pay 220. Give me your address so I can definitely not come beat you up.
$50. $60.
What?
For the PlayStation. Huh?
Just the PlayStation?
No, everything. I'm haggling. Yo?
Hello, my ad said the PlayStation 4 has 2 controllers, a PSVR setup, and 3 games for 300 bucks. I said in the ad no haggling. I won't respond anymore after this text.
$300? Everyone haggles. 100 is the most I'm gonna offer. Yo, you about to miss out on some serious cash. This would be a good Christmas gift for my brother, man. $100, take it or leave it. F you. I'm reporting your ad. It's getting taken down because you can't reach a deal.
God, I love that exchange. Take it or leave it. Okay, I leave it. What? Hi, Bettiful. You there? Send me out pic if you're there. Vagne pic? Huh? You are my pussycat doll. Please send Bobby for 34,000 rupees, ma'am. Bloody slut whore father flip, send neck day pic now. I ask many time. Please send it. dying from cancer. One last wish to see your Bob, then I will take off life support so can die in peace. Okay, I did now. F you, Bick. Bye. Never contact me again.
Hey girl, I miss you, frowny face. I wanted to ask you if you could paint some Air Forces with butterflies on them for me. I really like your work and I wanted to know if you could do them for me. Let me know.
Hey, been a while. Yeah, I can definitely paint some butterflies on some Air Forces for you. It's gonna be $100. You just have to give me the shoes.
Oh, wait, you want me to pay for them?
Yeah, this is my business. I don't usually do them for free. Why wouldn't I?
Well, I didn't think you would charge me, 'cause we're really good friends. I guess I just didn't expect that from you. I just wanted to support the business, but never mind. $100 is too expensive for the work you do anyway. I mean, honestly. Your stuff isn't even that good to be charging that much. You should do like $20 to be honest.
Girl, what? It takes me almost 20 plus hours to finish a pair of shoes. Not to mention, they're all hand painted and I work really hard to come up with my own ideas. You said you really liked my work, and then whenever I said I was gonna charge you, all of a sudden it isn't good enough? You said you want to support my business, but how are you supporting my business if I paint your shoes for free? That's not even being friends. Not to mention, this is the first time we've spoken in like a year. I know the worth of my art, and if you don't like it, I'm sorry, but it isn't free. Stop texting me. If one of my friends was an artist and I wanted to support them, I would literally pay them double. 2 glasses of Chardonnay, $24.
Tip amount, $0. Grand total. I am a military spouse. It should be free. Next time, thank a military spouse, smiley face.
Then this choosing beggar writes,
When I became a military spouse, I thought I would get free stuff. WTF. Military spouses deserve drinks for free. F this place. OMG, F this place. We serve our butts off way more than anyone.
You know who really served their butt off? Was your literal server, who you tipped $0. Lady, even if the place did give you drinks for free, you should still tip the server. What's wrong with you? For this next post, this woman was couch surfing and OP finally kicked her out. And then this is the text message. I hope you find what you're looking for.
Condescending. Can you introduce me to some of your wealthier friends? I'll give you cash in return for the intro. I'm going to be 32 soon, and I feel like I'm never going to find someone I can have a family with. I tried going to all sorts of places and end up dating guys who can't afford anything. Then things fall apart and I end up getting hurt. It's effed up and I'm sick of it. I want the next guy I allow myself to care about to be in a place where he can afford to have a woman and a family. I'd pay you for the intros. If you know single guys who are looking for marriage or family building and can afford to do so. No age limit.
Dude, is this girl literally asking you to become her pimp? On this next post, someone made a post online begging for help in fostering a dog for 2 weeks while a newly homeless family waited to move into their new home. OP, who doesn't know these people at all, offered to take this dog for free for 2 weeks and then gets this text message.
Hey, I'm the friend blank posted about the dog.
Then, literally 4 minutes later,
hello?
Hi, sorry, I'm at work and can't be on my phone much. So, I guess you never found anyone to take him?
If I did, I wouldn't be texting you. Can you take him now?
Okay, and no, I'm at work. I don't get done until midnight tonight, but I could take him then. I can come pick him up when I get off.
Huh? Are you effing serious? Why the flip would you even message Blank about the dog if you couldn't come get him?
I messaged 2 days ago when I was off work. If you had texted me then, I would have been able to take him right away. Do you need me to take the dog tonight or not?
Wow, can you just get him now?
I just told you, I'm at work. I can't physically leave work until midnight.
F you.
Okay then, good luck with the dog.
How can you be this effing heartless? Hello? F you, jerk. Guess you just effing hate dogs. You screw over a mother at Christmas time. Heartless grunt.
Man, what's with this lady? I've never seen someone ask for a favor so angrily. My coworker, Sarah, had a walkout from her restaurant last night. All walkouts suck, but this one was very different. The table that walked out included three 20-something-year-olds, 2 guys and a girl. The girl happened to go to high school with my coworker who was serving them. The two spent a good portion of the night catching up, having a good time, and everything was going smoothly. After ordering $80 worth of food and drinks, the table walked out on their bill. Sarah was pissed. Since we scan and save IDs at my bar, we permanently flag anyone who has walked out on their tab and ban them from re-entry. Unless, of course, they come back to pay their tab and apologize for their lapse in judgment. The ID saving system is also linked with other bars in the city that use the same brand. So if someone were to be banned from our bar, all other participating bars would be notified and able to ban them as well. Sarah figured she'd message this girl on Facebook and let her know she should come back and pay her bill to save her from that major inconvenience, instead of telling her she was a huge piece of garbage, but my coworker kept it cordial. The girl never responded to my friend. The next day, however, the girl who walked out called the restaurant asking to speak to the manager. My manager, a seasoned vet who doesn't take garbage from anyone, answered the phone. Every morning, he reads over the log from the night before, so he knew of everything that went down, including the walkout. However, he wasn't aware that Sarah had messaged this girl on Facebook. The girl proceeded to log a complaint about a server who waited on her the previous night.
Your server, Sarah, found me on social media and harassed me. It was really unprofessional, and I'm super creeped out by it. You shouldn't employ people who stalk their customers and send them threatening and offensive messages.
My manager, somewhat shocked at first, was about to find out more information about the cyber harassment, but remembered that Sarah was a server with a walkout from the night before. I apologize if you felt uncomfortable by one of our server's actions, but harassment sounds unusual for Sarah. She's one of our best servers. What exactly did Sarah say in these messages?
She said that I needed to come in and pay my tab or she would ban me from every bar in the city, and I'd never be able to eat out again.
My manager paused. What do you think she meant by pay your tab?
Well, we didn't pay our tab.
Completely blown away, my manager didn't know how to respond. So I'm going to need you to pay for your tab. And here's where this girl went from complete idiot to a complete idiot trying to be a delusional choosing beggar.
Well, I am not paying for our tab now. No way. I'm not going to give money to a restaurant who employs people who harass customers. I'm honestly so scared and creeped out that I'm going to call the police. Actually, the only way I won't call the police is if you promise you're going to fire this server.
So you're not going to pay a tab that you walked out on?
No. Are you even listening to me? You guys should be paying me for what I went through. You should be lucky that all I'm asking for is for this server to be fired so I won't call the police.
To buy some time to unpack the crazy my manager just heard, he told this chick that he'd talk it over with his supervisor and he would call her back. Sarah happened to be working that day, so he asked to see the Facebook messages. Sarah sent this girl exactly one message that said, "Hey, you walked out on your tab with me. You can come in and pay it tomorrow. Just make sure you come in because the ID system will ban you from our place and maybe some other bars if you don't pay." My manager called this psycho back. "Ma'am, I just read the messages Sarah sent you on Facebook. Sarah was trying to help you. We ban people from our bar who walk out on their tabs. So when would you like to pay for the $80 plus an added 20% gratuity?"
No, Sarah should have never messaged me in the first place. My social media profile is private. I want her fired.
Well, that's not happening, and we'll be banning you and your friends if you don't pay for your bill. The girl was screaming at this point.
I'm calling the police for harassment and piracy. You looked at my private messages. I'm not paying.
My manager, laughing in complete shock. Okay, go for it. Tell them we'd love to talk to them too. Enjoy your day.
Hello, police. I stole from these people and they treated me very badly afterwards, so I want them arrested and executed.
That was r/choosing beggars, and if you like this content, then let me know by hitting that like button because it really helps my channel grow in the YouTube algorithm. Welcome to r/Pro Revenge, where a World War II vet gets revenge from beyond the grave. I've really liked this girl for a while that I met at a lifeguard certification course, and I talked to her while I was there, and I thought, ended up hitting it off. We exchanged numbers and social media and all that, and we messaged for a few weeks before I asked her out to a movie, which she accepted. We've been going on casual dates, nothing too serious, and we weren't hanging out at my place or her place, even though I'd hinted at the idea. For a few weeks before one of her friends, someone that was also at the lifeguarding course that I met and kept in contact with because he was cool, sends me this screenshot. Aren't you an OP going out now?
Not really, but as long as he keeps paying for everything, I'll let him take me out more. Girls gotta eat.
And why you gotta do him like that?
Shrug emoji.
He said he felt bad for me because I was nice and that she often does this to other dudes. After seeing this, I asked her to go on a nice date with me to a hibachi grill restaurant. $20 to $40 plates and premium desserts are served here. I got the most expensive thing they had, and so did she. We both got fancy ice cream and multiple refills on drinks. I complimented her a lot and smiled consistently before getting up to go to the bathroom and leaving. I was also her ride. About 45 minutes later, I get furious text from her saying that she had to have her mom come down and pay for it because she didn't have money on her and that we were done. I know it's not a lot and it sucks because I thought she was actually into me, but it felt pretty nice leaving her that way. Our next Reddit post is from Pikatira. Years ago, my mother and I had just moved to a new dog-friendly apartment complex. We had 2 dogs. One was a Bichon Shih Tzu and the other was a Terrier Poodle mix. Because of them, we were excited for the community dog park right next to our building. Also to note, our whole building was filled with dog owners, each with dogs ranging from small to huge. Our apartment was on the first floor in the back of the building, all the way in the corner. It was a nice private area for us with how the apartments were situated. Since one of our dogs is a terrier, he can be a bit barky when we're not home. Though, when we are home, we have a clicker to get his attention, and he's been trained to stop barking and come to whoever has the clicker. Due to our work hours, I was usually home in the morning and Mom was home in the afternoon, leaving him alone for a few hours during the day. After a month of moving to our new apartment, we received a note on our door. It was from one of the neighbors. It stated, "Dear neighbor, I understand that you are new to this complex, but it is rude to allow your dog to bark. It is ruining my sleep before I go to work, and my job is extremely important. I don't care how you do it, but shut your dog up." My mom turned in the note right away to the leasing office as she wasn't sure what to do with it. That's when the office told us not to worry because he had done this to every dog owner in the building. They did ask us to see if we can find ways to calm him down when we're not home. So we did. We found out the kids in the neighborhood liked playing with the power station outside our apartment, and that is who he'd been barking at. So we closed off that area to him when we went out and no one was home. We started playing calming music as a way to help as well. Another week goes by, and this time, we hear a knock at the door. We go outside, and we meet our angry neighbor. He explains that our dog has kept him up every day, and woke him up with his hours of barking. Both of us had been home that day, and our dog had been a good boy and had not excessively barked. I still remember what he had told us when I explained that. "I know what I heard. If you can't control your dog, then I'm going to call animal control and have them both taken from you. I did it before and have no problem getting rid of your dogs too. Then I'll get you kicked out for not following your lease, and I can do that because I'm very rich and the apartment needs my money. So do something to shut your dogs up, or else." After that, me and my mom apologized for what had happened and we went back in. A few moments later, I walked out to get the mail and discovered from another neighbor that he had gone to 3 other apartments and made similar threats. After some convincing, my mom told the apartment what had happened. We were told not to worry, and if he did that again, to please contact them.
Oh no, I'm gonna die!